comes from Enlightenment ideas and takes up the stylistic elements of the classical world. Around the middle of the 18th century, the excavations that had brought to light Pompeii and Herculaneum in the south of Italy renewed the artist's interest in studying Greek and Roman antiquities. The most important theoretician of Neoclassicism was Johann Winckelmann, according to whom the true art was the Greek one, for which the only way to become great and, if possible, inimitable is the imitation of the ancients. Imitation of the ancient meant for the neoclassical artist a source from which to draw in form and content as an aesthetic model for the representation of ideals and contemporary scenes. Religion had lost the central role that played for centuries in society, and this reflected in the art that took on a different social meaning, acquiring a public character. As a result, the artists freed themselves from the thematic canons imposed by their clients and began to have greater freedom regarding the choice of themes. In painting, religious motives disappear almost completely, while mythology is replaced by historical representation. The paintings are characterized by an almost photographic realism. The cold colors, the hard edges, and the lack of interest in the lighting effects give a sober look to the paintings, bringing the observer back to a detached position and no longer participating in the work. Sculpture was the artistic form best suited to the application of neoclassical theories. In these years, many studies were carried out on ancient statuary, which was fragmented in those years. The greatest of Italian neoclassicism was Antonio Canova, who managed with great skill to assimilate the lesson of the Greeks, as can be seen in works like Ecole Lica, Amore Psyche, Venere Adone, e Le Tre Grazie.
And I'm going to explain you what is romanticism.
In response to the principles of neoclassicism, new artistic style
different of Romanticism. Romanticism in art presented characteristics clearly contrary of those of Neoclassicism: unbridled passion, strong feelings, and a rediscovered fervor for the religious world. Moreover, if the neoclassical artists were convinced that the perfection of art had been archived by ancients, on the other hand, the Romantic ones were inspired by the dark and mysterious of modern Middle Age, which had been considered a negative period until then. Nature was the main engine of reality, able to provide images to man, which led to two important feelings: the picturesque and the sublime. What is this sublime meaning? According to Edmund Burke, it was the feeling that was born to fear and terror generated by the infinite and boundless greatness of creation with respect to man. And instead, what does picturesque mean? Euler Price, at the end of the 18th century, gave a brief definition. It was an element indicating the refusal of the pictorial precision that subsequently linked to the exhalation of the instinct and of the irregular development without logic typical of nature. In England, one of the most famous Romantic painters was William Tallman, who, in his career, made countless paintings, in which the power of nature and its destructive power were protagonists, such as fire, as in the burning of the House of Lords and the Convensor, or extraordinary storms. Another fundamental name of English Romanticism was William Blake, who became famous for having painted pictures with the great protagonist vision and dreams. Subsequently, he devoted himself to the realization of artworks drawn extensively from classical literature. Last but not least, in the Romantic English world, it was John Constable, who became famous for having painted a large number of fantastic landscapes inspired by the English countryside. Caspar David Friedrich was the most important German Romantic artist, who in his works showed the boundless greatness of nature, before which man was nothing but a tiny point. The works that perfectly summarize these characteristics were Crossing Mountain and The Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog. In the world of French Romanticism, Eugène Delacroix made a fundamental contribution, emphasizing the importance of the concept of French nation, painting works related to the fact of its reality, as you can see in the liberty leading the people. Theodore Géricault was another French Romantic artist of great prestige. Even if he chose to create new stories, just like Delacroix, his goal was different. He wanted to show immense weakness in front of the devastating power of nature. In Rafta Medusa, his undisputed masterpiece, his pictorial percepts are clearly visible. In Italy, the most important Romantic artist was Francesco Alias, who created works that are part of the Romanticism, with the subject of a period prior his masterpiece is The Kiss. In music, the most important musicians were Friedrich Chopin, Giuseppe Verdi, Van Liszt, Brahms, and Tchaikovsky.
As a movement began in France when a group of young and talented artists decided to rebel against the established art critics and form a new style of painting all their own. The term Impressionism comes from a painting by Claude Monet, which he showed in an exhibition with the name Impression, Sunrise. An art critic, Louis Leroy, saw the exhibition and wrote a review in which he said that all the paintings were just impressions. The word stuck. Impressionists were more concerned with the light and color of the moment than with the details of objects they were painting. They often painted outdoors, worked quickly to capture the light before it changed, and often used unmixed color to save time. Most popular Impressionism artists were Claude Monet, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Alfred Sisley, Frédéric Bazille, Camille Pissarro. Along with Impressionism, the Realism as an art movement began to develop in the late of 19th century. Artists, musicians, and writers began to explore the reality of everyday life. They were trying to show the world as it really is, instead of trying to escape to a world of fantasy, which is what the Romantics had been doing. Realism artists tried to depict the real world exactly as it appears. They didn't try to interpret the scene or add emotionally to the scenes. Realism is presented in artworks of Gustave Courbet, Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot, Benoit Lumière. In music, during the same time period, there was a movement called Verismo, which in Italian means reality. Composers who wrote in Verismo style were Giacomo Puccini and Pietro Mascagni, whose intermezzo from his opera Cavalleria Rusticana will be performed now by the Piuarte Chamber Orchestra.
Here is Carlotta, and I'm going to explain the 20th century art. 20th century art gave rise to a wave of revolutionary avant-garde movements and styles. Many of them have followed one another, leaving an indelible mark thanks to their strong renewal role in artistic research. Avant-garde means art that is innovative, introducing or exploring new forms or subject matter. Art historians identify several avant-garde groups created in the 20th century in different countries. In France, there was a group with the name The Fauve. It was formed in 1905 and constituted the first movement with an expressionistic inspiration. With this term were unpleasantly shown some painters, including Matisse and Derain, whose paintings were with a very violent color impact. In fact, Fauve in French means beast. Their characteristic feature was the visible data reinterpreted with the great freedom, translating it into colors spread in pure shades. Van Gogh and Gauguin inspired the Fauve for the sensitivity for the bright color and the resolution of the image only on the two-dimensional plane. In the same year, Expressionism spread especially in Germany and in the Nordic countries. In Dresden, there formed another group of artists under the name Die Brücke, the bridge. The main protagonists of this group were Ernst Ludwig Kirchner and Emil Nolde. In Die Brücke, there are the typical feature of expressionism, chromatic violence and caricatural deformation, but there is also a strong charge of drama that was not present in the Fauve. From Munch, the expressionist painters took the suggestion of painting as an explosion of an inner cry that brings to the surface all the human pain and suffering. A second expressionistic group was established in Munch in 1911, the Blaue Reiter, the Blue Knight. The main inspirers of the movement were Vasily Kandinsky and Franz Marc. The Blaue Reiter proposed an art where the main component was an inner expression of the artist who could also completely ignore the reality external to himself, and indeed it was Vasily Kandinsky, the first painter, to choose the path of total abstractionism. The most important Italian avant-gardes are presented through Futurism and Metaphysica. Born in 1909, thanks to the poet and writer Filippo Tommaso Marinetti, Futurism soon became the most innovative artistic movement in Italian cultural scene. He addressed all the arts, proposing a new attitude towards the concept of art itself. He proposed to explore the world of the future, made of modernity against the old, speed against stasis, violence against peace, and so on. The main exponent of Futurism were Filippo Tommaso Marinetti, Giacomo Balla, Umberto Boccioni, and Caprio Carrà. Metaphysica is the other great contribution to European art that came from Italy. The protagonist and inventor of this style was Giorgio de Chirico. The enigmatic atmospheres of his painting impressed with the apparent simplicity of what they show. The use of the light seems unreal and colors the object and sky of a natural use. The absence of life and the most absolute silence predominate in them. In literature, the most significant figures were Franz Kafka, James Joyce, and Alfred Doblin. In music, expressionism is presented by Austrian composer Arnold Schoenberg, his student Anton Webern, Russian composer Igor Stravinsky, and German musician Paul Hindemith. Dadaism. Dadaism is an artistic movement that was born in Switzerland, in Zurich, in 1960. The word Dada, which identified the movement, means absolutely nothing, and already this is the first characteristic of the movement, the refusal of rationality. The movement, after its debut in Zurich, soon spread to Europe, especially in Germany, and then to Paris. Although Dadaism is well circumscribed in the European area, there is also the American Dadaist experience, which arose from the meeting of some notable artistic personalities: in France, Marcel Duchamp, the American Man Ray, the Spanish Francis Picabia, and the American gallerist Alfred Stieglitz. But the life of the movement is quite short. Surrealism, as an artistic movement, was born in 1924. At its birth, both Dadaism and metaphysical painting contributed decisively. The theorician was above all the writer André Breton. It was he, in 1924, who drafted the Manifesto of Surrealism. The Surrealist painters proceed by free association of ideas, uniting things and spaces apparently unrelated to each other to obtain a new sensation. The surrealist beauty arises then from finding two real objects that have nothing in common together in a place equally unrelated to both. This situation generates an unexpected vision that is surprising for its absurdity and because it contradicts our sentiments. Max Ernst, John Miro, Salvador Dalí, and René Magritte are some of the most incisive painters of surrealism. The orchestral composition for Ballet Parade by Eric Satie from 1917 is an anticipation of surrealism. As in the artistic movement, the composition of Satie is a collage which the sounds of everyday life or sounds of objects are combined with a traditional bass. In few seconds, you will hear for the first time in Kazakhstan Eric Satie's famous Gymnopédie No. 1 for piano and orchestra.
Thank you very much. Our concert is over. I hope you enjoyed our concert. Thank you. Grazie.